Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is another one of my Living Consciously videos. My voice seems very, very hoarse today. I don't think I got enough sleep last night, but I'm very happy to be here. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I'm in green, as is practically the rest of those of us who love the everything about the Irish and on St. Patrick's Day. Today's topic is ego mind versus spirit mind. It's a very interesting topic, and it's one that needs to be covered because 85% of the population of the world is trapped in the ego. They can't get anything beyond that. And according to statistics that, have been done by metaphysical seekers, one of the things that I've learned is I really never understood what it meant to be in the ego, but I did have an experience with teaching A Course in Miracles, and that constantly gives you a comparison of what it is to be in ego mind versus what it is to be in spirit mind. Spirit mind is basically the way God thinks. So you really have to stretch beyond human endeavor. You really have to go much, much higher than anything that is available to the human mind. And the beauty is that you can do it, it's not impossible. Sometimes I know when I first picked up the book, A Course in Miracles, this was in the 80s. I opened it, read 2 paragraphs, and my comment to myself was, "This sounds like a schizophrenic wrote it." Nothing made sense. You do have to be ready for this. Um, then the second time I picked it up made a little more sense, and then the third time, a friend, invited me to come to class with him, and I've taken off with it since then. Let's start with the one that the most important premise in A Course in Miracles is that there are only two emotions on this planet. One is love, one is fear. Fear comes from the ego mind. Fear and all its minions: rage, anger, temper tantrums, volatility, upset. Every single thing that is not love comes from fear. What is love? Every single thing that is considered a virtue. So, kindness, generosity, compassion, tenderness, all comes from love. And the beauty is that, or I should say, the Greeks will actually have 38 words for love. We have one. You love the most important person in your life, and you love chocolate. So it's the same word, but yet the sensation that you might feel towards the most important person in your life hopefully is different than the sensation you feel about chocolate. But anyway, we only have one word, and that is to love. So just be okay with using that one word. And if you feel like researching it, one of these days I'm going to do that. I'm going to list and itemize all the Greek words for love. In fact, that might be my next video because even brotherly love has a totally different meaning than erotic love or sexual love. So anyway, so let's move on. Just remember, love comes from spirit, Fear comes from the ego. Another ego tendency, huge tendency, scarcity. As I was preparing for this class, I thought about the fact that if all the population in the world was compressed to 100 people, those 100 people would all be living in the United States, and those 100 people would all be considered wealthy. And yet, if you look around you, and this might be you too, you may feel that scarcity follows you, that there's no abundance, which is what comes from spirit. If you think about abundance, just go into nature. Look at the leaves on the trees. Look at the grass that grows. Now is springtime in the northern hemisphere. Look at the flowers that bloom. They're exquisite. There's nothing more beautiful, in my estimation, than the brilliant yellow of yellow daffodils. Somebody might say, no, sunflowers are much more brilliant, but the splash that daffodils and tulips and even the tiniest little snowdrops and crocuses make are just absolutely exquisite. So when you stop to think of how many varieties, I know in the Shenandoah, there are, which I'm about an hour away from, there's like 90 varieties of trees in there, but there are 300,000 varieties of beetles. So, what is scarcity? It's a thought. It's a thought form that you accept for yourself because you don't realize that your thoughts are creating your reality. And if you have a impoverished mentality, that's the way you're going to live your life. I can give you an example from my personal life. When I was full time in real estate, there was 1 month that I had $38,000. I'm sorry, $37,000 in income in 1 month. When I tallied up my bills at the end of that month, I owed 38,000. So obviously, I was in a scarcity mentality. Didn't matter how much I earned, wasn't enough. So I really encourage you to please get out of scarcity. There is so much beauty around us, and it's free of charge. It's there morning, noon, and night. Even on the coldest, most blustery day, you can cover yourself with a jacket, with a scarf, with a hood, and go out and enjoy the day, especially if there's sunlight out there. Doesn't matter how cold it is. Fortunately, in Virginia, it never really reaches much below zero. The other day, it was 32 degrees wind chill factor, 42 otherwise, but still a glorious sunny day and a glorious day to take a walk. So be very careful of when you fall into scarcity thinking and watch how it affects your finances. The other one is loss. Another biggie is loss. The ego mind says, well, if I give you something, I lose it for myself. Spirit mind is just the opposite. Let's take Reiki. If I give you Reiki, the energy goes through me. So therefore I receive exactly what I give to you. It's a, a more just satisfying way of thinking. I gain as I give. And it's interesting because the word forget, forgive. Two things that we really have to learn to live our life forgetting and forgiving, but separate them. For, get, to get, to receive. For, give, to give something. So as we forgive, we also give. And mainly, we give to ourselves because we get ourselves out of the trauma of what has caused us to be in that place to in the first place. So loss and gain, all gain comes from spirit mind, loss comes from ego mind. Separation and oneness, two more things. I heard a teacher once say, the only sin that you have committed on this planet is that you felt you are separate from God. And I looked at that and I thought, kind of interesting. But I do know that the more I just effectively give out of my teachings, give them to the public. And this is one of the ways that I give my teachings to the public. My learning obviously came first. I had to learn it in order to teach it. Um, it just brings me so much closer to a feeling of oneness. I literally feel like my day and night is a bookend. I start my day with a meditation practice. I read 8 books. I read a page in 8 books or a meditation in 8 books. I read 2 pages out of Own Your Power, my book. I do a couple of other meditations. I do the prayer of connection. I sign my hands with Reiki. So I start my day that way. I end my day reading 1 page out of A Course in Miracles, doing 5 to 10 gratitudes in my gratitude journal, and reading 1 page in New Teachings for an Awakening Humanity at this moment in time. I usually cycle a book twice before I move on to another book. I own probably 500 spiritual books, but some I find obviously more important than others. So it's always that sense that we have that we are separate, not only from everyone else, but separate from God, that God is distant to us. It's not really a part of who we are, which is really sad and tragic that people feel that way because of the fact that we can't uh, uh, you can't get to a place of oneness if you feel separate. The next, okay, the next item that I wanted to cover was death, ego, versus infinity, spirit. Unfortunately, every time we face death, it can be the death of anything. It can be the death of a friend. It can be the death of friendship. It can be the death of a relationship. It can be um, the death of our garden when we have to put it to sleep because winter is coming. We have to remember that effectively there is no death. Death is no more than walking through a door into another dimension. Very, very hard on us when it's somebody we love or somebody we're close to or somebody that is very special in for whatever reason in our life. Very hard on us. But effectively for the person going into infinity, 99.9999999% of the time, Under no circumstance do they want to come back. If you want to get a totally different perspective on this, read the two books by Michael Newton, PhD. He has Journey of the Soul, Destiny of the Soul. He did all his research with NDEs, near death experiences, people who have come back. And what they talk about more than anything is how wonderful that state of love, unconditional love, felt. So we just remember, even though from our human perspective, our loss is sometimes we are inconsolable in our loss. But for the person leaving, they go into a place of pure love. One other thing that I wanted to cover was judgment versus acceptance. Judgment is a standard 3D effect. Everything is black or white, up or down. There's a duality on this planet. So therefore we tend to judge good, bad. And if there are so many reasons not to judge, one of the things that I know in one of the conversations that I had with God was that He said, do not judge unless you know the entire past, the entire present, and the entire future of someone. So it doesn't matter how horrible their life looks or how many bad choices they have made. For whatever reason, that soul chose to experience that in this lifetime. And sometimes the better part of valor is to let them go and let them experience what they experience, the effect of the choices they have made. So, judgment, ego mind, acceptance, spirit mind. Not easy, but possible. The last one I wanted to cover before I go into one last thing is perception versus knowledge. Perception, you've probably heard the statement that said, perception is reality. No, knowledge is reality. Perception is each individual's version of reality. There was one college professor who wanted to prove this to his students, and he set up a scene. He took them to the drama club, and so there was a stage, and he had a person run out dressed like a Viking, and then a dragon following it, and then a maiden in distress, and all kinds of things happened on stage. And then he had his students write about what they saw. He had something like 30 students. He got 30 versions of what happened, what they witnessed. Everybody's perception comes in through their own filters. One of the things that because I was raised Polish Catholic, I would occasionally read, some of the messages from the Blessed Mother that came through Catholic faith. Guilt and sin was always a part of that. Guilt and sin is a part of the Catholic faith. When Annie Kirkwood, who was a Jewish nurse and not particularly religious at all, realized she was being contacted by the Blessed Mother. She said, why are you contacting me? I'm not even Catholic. And the Blessed Mother's retort was, neither am I. So effectively, think about it. Your perception of things is going to come through your filters of the way you were raised. I'll give you a very simple thing from my own life. The first time that I had acupuncture in Northern Virginia was with a gentleman, a Dr. Shao. And he had a number of rooms that he took his patients to as he did the treatment. And he always took me into a room with two beds, but I was the only person in that bed, in one of the beds. So the other bed was always empty. And so one day he came in and I watched as he walked in. I thought he was coming to me. He walks by me, goes to the other bed, and there's a woman all of a sudden that I see laying there with a bright red sweater with dark blue jeans. And I realized, oh my God, she's been there the whole time. I never saw her. I saw that bed as empty because every time I walked in, that bed was empty. So I saw the same thing and didn't realize that there was a person laying in that bed. I can't tell you how many times I see things that I recognize later were not there. I might see elfin ears on a person that is related to the fifth dimensional elves. Um, I might see a face that is totally different from another time I see them. That is probably closer to the truth of who they are. So this has happened so often to me. I don't even I recognize that I don't even question it. I realize that came in from perception. I wanted to see one thing. I saw it, and then it turned out to be something else. So that's perception versus knowledge. I wanted to leave you with this final image. The ego's version of love is a triangle. I love you, therefore I can control you. And when I can't control you, I fly into a rage. That's what many people are experiencing: love, control, rage, versus spirit's version. I love you, therefore I accept you exactly the way you are, and I give you complete assurance that I do accept you exactly the way you are. I'm not going to try to make you over. I'm not going to try to make you into a, a version of somebody that I want. So, therefore, it's love, acceptance, assurance. I do thank you for being here. I know I'm at 23 minutes. I do try to end at 20. If you're interested in my book, Own Your Power Day by Day, go to my website, Alicia, ALICJA Jones.com. And this month, if you're in Virginia, I will be at the Pathways Expo on April 2nd. Well, I guess it's not this month anymore. It's within uh, April. April 2nd, I'll be at the Pathways Expo giving readings for a special price. My normal price for 15 minutes is $45. These will be $35. And then I will be at, on April 23rd, I will be at the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment doing a class on channeling. And we will channel uh, your higher self. We will channel the archangels and the angels, and we will channel the ascended masters. So, and if you don't like that, I've got substitutes for, uh, what I'm willing to let you channel. So, anyway, I will see you next week. I don't have my topic for some reason. It hasn't come in yet. But I will be here at 1 p.m. on Friday. I thank you for being here. Wish you a very happy St. Patrick's Day and give you a love galore. Thank you.